Sarah was still sobbing softly. The tissue in her hand was completely soaked. From the rearview mirror, she could see the taxi driver stealing glances at her. He seemed hesitant to ask, perhaps feeling awkward, though his eyes showed sympathy. She turned her gaze outside. A motorcycle was trying to overtake the taxi. The rider was a mother with her young child, probably around Bobby's age. A fresh wave of tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. She thought about Bobby again, her little boy who had begged for a Rubik's Cube that morning. She had promised him one if he scored above a C on his math test. Yesterday, Bobby had come home from school, beaming. "Mummy, I got an A," he had said, his voice full of excitement. "Can we get the Rubik's Cube tomorrow?" He hadn't even waited for her answer before declaring it. Sarah had laughed and nodded, ruffling his hair. At 7 in the morning, Bobby had already started pleading to go to the mall. "Mummy, let's go. Let's take an online taxi," he had chirped, using the phrase he always did for ride-hailing services. Bobby was a sharp boy. He always watched how his mother ordered taxis and even memorized the license plate numbers. When their car arrived, Bobby suddenly said he needed to use the bathroom before they left. "Hurry, okay? The car's waiting," Sarah had told him as she stood by the front door. Less than a minute later, Bobby had reappeared. He had followed her gesture, pointing toward the taxi, and climbed in beside her. Now, sitting in the back of another taxi, Sarah suddenly remembered something strange. Inside the taxi that morning, Bobby had been unusually quiet. He had just stared out the window. Had she felt something off? A whisper of unease. A shiver ran down her spine. And then, the disaster happened. The memory of it sent fresh sobs through Sarah's body. "Oh my God. Bobby. Where are you, my child?" She tried to recall everything. How they had arrived at the mall, walked hand in hand toward the toy store. Just as they reached the entrance, a woman with a baby stroller had struggled with a small step leading into the store. Sarah had instinctively let go of Bobby's hand to help. Just a few seconds. That's all it took. When she turned back, Bobby was gone. She had called out his name once, twice. No answer. The woman with the stroller hadn't seen anything either. Panic had clawed at her chest, twisting into raw terror. Security guards had helped her search, but Bobby was nowhere to be found. The mall's CCVT. None of the cameras pointed directly at the toy store entrance. The store's own camera footage. They wouldn't release it until the next day without the owner's approval. Desperate, she had gone to the police station nearby, security officers accompanying her. She had given them Bobby's photo, which they sent to their team to check the CCTV records for the day. They had promised to call her as soon as they found something. At some point, back at the security office, Sarah had felt like a ghost in her own body. People had spoken to her, the security officers, the mall management, even the store staff. But their words had been muffled, distant, like echoes underwater. Until one officer had handed her a glass of water. "Here, madame, please have some water." She had taken the water, grateful, and slowly, reality had settled back into focus. The officer had advised her to go home and contact her family. Sarah had agreed. She needed to call her mother, her brother. But calling Bobby's father, number not yet, not Rick, not the man she had divorced 2 years ago. A sudden voice startled her. "Madame, should I take a left or a right here?" Sarah wiped her tears and answered, "Left. The White House with the green gate." Her body felt heavy as she stepped out of the taxi, unlocked the gate, and walked inside. As soon as she shut the front door, fresh tears poured down her face. "Bobby, where are you, my love?" she screamed in her heart, and then, "Mummy! Mummy!" Sarah froze. That was Bobby's voice. Her breath caught in her throat, her vision blurred. Was she losing her mind? Her knees wobbled, and she collapsed onto the living room chair, her body racked with sobs. "Oh my God. Bobby, your voice, it's so close." "Where are you, my son?" she whispered. Her chest felt tight, her vision darkening at the edges. "Mummy! Mummy, what's wrong?" The voice was even closer now, right beside her. Sarah turned sharply. There, Bobby, standing right next to her, her heart nearly stopped. "Bobby, is it really you?" she gasped, her voice breaking as she grabbed his arm. "Yeah, Mummy, it's me. Why did you leave me? After I used the bathroom, you were gone. You locked the door. I was so mad. I wanted to go to the mall, too." His voice, his complaints, exactly as she remembered. Sarah's mind spun. But this morning, hadn't they gone to the mall? Hadn't he? Tears streamed down her face as she crushed Bobby into a tight hug. "Oh, Bobby. Oh, my baby. Mummy loves you so much. I'm so sorry. So sorry." Bobby huffed. "It's okay, Mummy. Can we go buy the Rubik's Cube later? Maybe with Uncle Steve?" Sarah nodded, still trembling. She didn't understand what had happened. Maybe she never would. But she would call her brother, explain everything. Maybe he could help her figure this out. Maybe she should also call the mall security, the toy store, the police. But later. Not now. For now, all she wanted was to hold Bobby and never let go. She pulled him onto her lap, rocking him gently. "Mummy loves you, Bobby. Mummy loves you so much." Neither of them noticed the small figure standing outside the window behind them. A child, about Bobby's age. Its eyes, bright, glowing red, watched them through the glass. Meanwhile, in the mall security office, a security officer rewound and fast-forwarded the CCTV footage, rubbing his eyes. "Sir, this is the woman who reported her missing child, right? Look, she enters the mall here. Then here she's walking toward the toy store." His superior nodded, staring at the screen. "So?" The officer hesitated, swallowing. "She's walking, as if holding someone's hand." He pointed at the footage, his voice shaking. "But there's no one there. Sir, I've checked over and over. She's completely alone."